Vaichananda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Krantarachima Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Nitya Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 44. Tasmaidam Bhagavatam. Tasmaidam Bhagavatam. Puranam Dashalakshanam. Puranam Dashalakshanam. Proktam Bhagavata Praha. Proktam Bhagavata Praha. Prita Putraya Putakrit. Prita Putraya Putakrit. Tasmaidam Bhagavatam. Puranam Dashalakshanam. Proktam Bhagavata Praha. Prita Putraya Putakrit. Tasmaidam Bhagavatam. Puranam Dashalakshanam. Proktam Bhagavata Praha. Putakrit. Word to word, Tasmai, thereupon, idam, this, Bhagavatam, the glories of the Lord, or the signs of the Lord. Puranam, Vedic supplement. Dashalakshanam, 10 characteristics. Proktam, described. Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead. Praha, said. Pritaha, in satisfaction. Putraya, unto the Son. Putakrit, the creator of the universe. Translation and purport by Divine Grace of Acharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Thereupon the supplementary Vedic literature Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described by the personality of Godhead and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the Father, Brahma, to his son Narada. Purport. Although the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it had 10 characteristics, which will be explained in the next chapter. In the 4 verses, it is first said that the Lord existed before the creation, and thus the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam includes the Vedanta aphorism Janmadhyasya. Janmadhyasya is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said that the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to the supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain the 10 characteristics. One should not misunderstand by wrong interpretations that the Lord spoke only 4 verses and that therefore all the rest of the 17,994 verses are useless. The 10 characteristics, as will be explained in the next chapter, require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he had heard from Brahmaji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell, but the disciple Rupa Goswami expanded this very elaborately, and the same subject was further expanded by Jiva Goswami and even further by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We are just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not like ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished with such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses all the same, inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky. Such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. Markanaksimrandasya Krananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Putale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttabadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahaganadakunatan Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Baran Sahaganalalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutete Pranamame Hare Priya Vancha Kalpatarabhascha Kripa Sindhubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we are continuing after having heard the famous Chaturshloki, and still in that line we hear now how Lord Brahma, the head of our Sampradaya, the first living being of this universe, expanded from simply these 4 shlokas to expanded on it to Narad Muni, and we know then through Parampara from Narad Muni he expanded further to Srila Vyasadeva, and Srila Vyasadeva compiled this whole Srimad Bhagavatam with its 18,000 verses. And yeah, it's quite an amazing purport that Prabhupada is explaining on this, namely, again, also the power of Parampara and also the inconceivable nature of the Lord. And as Prabhupada points out here, that this Srimad Bhagavatam we know is the sound representation or sound incarnation of the Lord. So we know the Lord himself, or no, not the Lord himself, I think, it must be Sutta Goswami or someone who is saying famous verse at the beginning of Bhagavatam, that explaining that now in this age of Kali, which is the most fallen age, that there is, we know, anyway, first, sorry, let's continue on that, so that at the end of Dwapara Yuga we know that Lord Krishna, after winding up his pastimes, went back to his abode, and but not only he himself, but along with him he also took jnana and dharma, as it is explained. Krishna swadharma bhagate dharma jnana tibhihi saha kalo nashtadisham mesha puranarko dunoditaha. That when Krishna went back to his abode, he also, along with him, came knowledge, transcendental knowledge, jnana and dharma, and religious principles. In other words, and thus kalo nashtatrisham mesha. So in this age of Kali, it's full of darkness. The people, they are not able to follow dharma anymore. They don't have transcendental knowledge. So their only hope is Puranarko and Dunoditaha, this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is compared to the sun. It's as brilliant as the sun, fully potent of, even in this darkest age, giving full enlightenment to the people. And so in other words, that's how Krishna is still present. And we know, of course, another form how he is present is as the holy name. How does it go? Kali Kale Namarupa Krishna Avatar. That in this age of Kali, Krishna is certainly also still present particularly as the holy name, as you know. Which Shukadeva Goswami also at the end of Bhagavatam, one of the famous verses that we also discussed in the Holy Name Week, explains that, in this age of Kali, which is an ocean of fault, that there is only one good quality, and that is that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, that we can attain full perfection, go back to Godhead. That Kalya dosha niderajan astyeko mahankuna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sanghaparam vrachet. I hope I remembered it correctly. So that's our beautiful famous verse that Shukadeva Goswami explains also about the hope that we have in this most fallen age of Kali. But so coming back to Srimad Bhagavatam, so Srila Prabhupada explains beautifully how to understand this inconceivable fact that originally how the Lord gave Srimad Bhagavatam to us, to the parampara, to Lord Brahma, the head of our parampara, is simply in those 4 verses that we recently discussed. And how can it be that there's so much contained in 18,000 verses, and then the same knowledge Lord Brahma received in simply 4 verses. It doesn't make sense, it's inconceivable. But Srila Prabhupada explains that because Srimad Bhagavatam has nothing to do with any mundane literature, rather it is the incarnation of the Lord as sound, and thus it has also the same qualities as the Lord, and one of those is that the Lord is simultaneously smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. As Prabhupada beautifully writes, I'll just read this section again. The last part of the purport is so amazing. So Prabhupada is saying that it is unlimited in strength, so talking about Srimad Bhagavatam now. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's own ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses, all the same, inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky. Such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Prabhupada makes it very clear to us that we shouldn't get stuck on how can it be 18,000 verses, same as 4 verses. Prabhupada expands on it and says, what to speak of 18,000 verses? Even if you would try to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 billion verses, it still would be, the Lord can still be, He can expand it into 4 billion verses, and it can still be the same, have the same potency, the same message that He is giving in 4, as He is giving it in 4 verses to Lord Brahma. And so before that, Prabhupada was taking from the angle about how one may try to expand on that knowledge, and still one can never come to the end. So because the Lord is unlimited, so Srimad Bhagavatam is also unlimited actually. It's just a question of in how particularly Bhagavatam wants to reveal Himself, but it's Krishna, so it's Himself to us. In our case, it's by the mercy of our parampara, but through Srila Vyasadeva, we get it in those 18,000 verses, and it can be expanded much more, and still you cannot reach the end, and it can be much more concise, as in the case for Lord Brahma especially. That one thought escaped me. We should never think that we, of course, what it shows again also that we could ever think that we've understood the Lord, we figured out. The point that, we got it in with 18,000 verses, but also by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that's actually the only way that fallen souls like us actually have access even to those 18,000 verses. We wouldn't even have intelligence to understand the Lord through those 18,000 verses if it wouldn't be by Srila Prabhupada's mercy with our Bhagavatam is very importantly, not just those verses, but the amazing purpose that Srila Prabhupada is giving. So that's also still fully part of Bhagavatam. It's not something added on. That is directly what the Lord dictated to Srila Prabhupada, how to give the Bhagavatam to us in this even more fallen state that we are now in the advanced Kali Yuga. So, yeah, that's the mercy of the Lord and of disciplic succession. And and also, what it also shows again is the amazing, how to say, like how elevated Lord Brahma is, in particularly in terms of his intelligence. And in one sense, it's no wonder that he's intelligent maturely, because we know his very body is made of intelligence. But here we are not speaking about material intelligence, obviously, but about spiritual intelligence. And and what does intelligence mean? We know Prabhupada explains, and Bhagavatam itself explains that intelligence, because materialistic people may think that it's something, to be able to be intellectual, to be intelligent, to be able to remember many things. I mean, that's true, that's one part of intelligence, and to be able to do mental speculation in a very complicated way, and come up with the most complex concepts and whatever. But that is not so much the real function of intelligence, but rather we know the most important function of intelligence is this discriminatory power, to be able to discriminate between things, to make sense, and thus to make sense out of the world. But in terms of spiritual intelligence, it is, of course, to discriminate, to be able to see what's spiritual and what's material, or in other words, what is pleasing to Krishna and what is not. Because that which is not pleasing to Krishna, that is Maya. If we see it in that way, and if we engage with the world in that way. Because after all, we know everything is Krishna's energy, as we heard in those famous verses about Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, that it is, simply a matter of then how the energy is utilized, whether it is then actually spiritual or material. As the Lord told Lord Brahma that Ritirtam yat pratiyata na pratiyata chatmani, that something which appears to have value, artha, but without relation to me, then tatvityat atmanomayam, that you should know to be Maya, to be my illusory energy. And just as, and he gives the example, beautiful example, yatabaso yatatamaha, just as in the shadow you might see, or rather, explain from the other side around, that if in full light there's no question of shadows or of reflections, there's simply full light, full knowledge. And there's only if you are in darkness, then you can see that somehow where there might come some reflected light, and from that some shadow, then you might see something like that. And that's what we see in the material world. If you see something separate from Krishna, see happiness here, then that is simply the perverted, the reflected form of its original spiritual nature in full light. And so that's the eternal occupation of a devotee as long as we are in the material world, as long as we are not completely pure devotees, that to be able to discriminate what's Maya and what's not, what is for Krishna's pleasure. And and Lord Brahma, he is so elevated that he is so intelligent, he could understand the whole essence of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses. And but still, there's still devotees even more elevated than him, who, because he has great intelligence, also the greatest material intelligence, but he fully utilizes it for the Lord, which is great. But then those who are the elevated in completely pure, spontaneous love of Krishna, for them it's completely natural to to always know what's most pleasing for the Lord at every single moment. And we see that in most beautifully, obviously, in the Vrajabasis, who they never have to think, oh, what is. I mean, obviously, they never think about Maya. For them, for us, it is important to understand also how the Lord's external energy works, because we are so conditioned in that and so easily fall trapped to it. But for those in spontaneous love on the Raga mark, for them it is just completely inbuilt, and that is something that's. Why is that? Because they are so qualified. They are completely surrendered to the Lord, and so I'm trying to repeat a little bit that from one lecture of my Guru Maharaj, and so he was explaining that about, because as I said before, so intelligence means particularly discriminatory power, and so in other words, the ability to make decisions. And so as everyone in the world all the time, the life consists of making decisions, being it small decisions like what do I want to eat, what do you want to take more of, how much altogether, or tiny insignificant decisions we make all the time even, and more important decisions as well. But for a devotee particularly, of course, we always have to decide, actually, what should I do now? What is the most pleasing to Krishna? That should be our constant focal point about how to make decisions. Not what is the most comfortable to me, or what is easy, but rather we should learn to always make the decision of how it will be most pleasing to Krishna. Which of course is not so easy to know and understand as a neophyte devotee, but that's why guidance is so important, obviously, because our spiritual masters and the senior devotees, they know what's most pleasing to Krishna, how they can engage us in such a way. And so if we sincerely follow, then by their mercy, even though we are not on the platform of being able to think for the pleasure of Krishna, that we still can act on that platform and become then quickly purified to gradually also have our intelligence purified and have the discriminatory power for the pleasure of Krishna. So understanding from that vision that yes, it is, that's absolutely compulsory that we need to learn that, to think and decide for the pleasure of Krishna. And eventually it will lead that it is simply completely inbuilt in our nature, because the spirit soul, that's how it is, that we simply are here for the pleasure of Krishna directly. And so and we see that in those pure devotees, and so Guru Maharaj gave some beautiful examples of those on the Raga mark, on the spontaneous love. I'll just try to repeat a few of them. First he said that like the Gopas, the Cowherd boys, for them, as I said, it's inbuilt into nature. They don't have to break their head about how to please Krishna. They know how to play with Krishna. They know how to joke with Krishna. Or the Gopis, for example, obviously they know how to give the highest pleasure to Krishna. For example, by they know that giving sidelong glances to Gopinath, that pleases him, or they know how to give pleasure to Krishna by quarreling with him, or Mother Yashoda, of course, she knows how to please Krishna in so many ways. By cooking, for example, cooking also Srimati Radharani knows how to cook for Krishna. So she is. Guru Maharaj was saying that actually many times Mother Yashoda, she already prepares everything for for cooking, and then when Srimati Radharani comes from, because we know she lives some distance away, so when she comes over then to cook for Krishna, everything will be ready already in the kitchen, and Mother Yashoda will take her in, and so she will cook exactly what Krishna desires, because she simply knows that because she's completely, she is the highest manifestation of that, of complete surrender, of complete not being able to think of anything other than the pleasure of Krishna. And then other example Guru Maharaj gave of when Mother Yashoda, of course, she is the one usually dressing Krishna, dressing him up, then in the morning before sending him to the forest with the other cowherd boys. But sometimes she will take help of some of her servants, but sometimes she will call in the cowherd boys from outside and tell, come in, you can help dressing Krishna, then you can leave more quickly, right? Because you're all eager to go with him to play, and so they will then tend to Krishna's lotus feet, put on some ankle belts and things like that, and what is Krishna doing? With his flute, he's hitting them on their heads. So, those are the sweet dealings that those who are completely surrendered to Krishna's pleasure, whose intelligence is simply made of discriminating naturally what's for the pleasure of Krishna, and knowing that how sweet and ecstatic that is, we should also, even in our lowest stages, that should be inspiration for us to always not be lazy and just do whatever comes. I mean, I'm engaging in Krishna consciousness, I'm chanting my rounds, and what more do you want of me? I'm following the four regulative principles, I'm doing devotional service as required. We shouldn't think like that. It's bhakti, ultimately it's about love. We want love of Godhead, and to love means not to be indifferent to our approach to Krishna, and devotional service, being it on a practical level or in terms of our sadhana, hearing, chanting and everything, everything is to approach Krishna and to associate with Krishna, to please Krishna. So in everything we do, we should always think, how can I do it most pleasing to Krishna? And we should never, naturally, of course, sometimes we won't be able to always do, and we will do like a routine job sometimes. But we shouldn't settle with that. We should always pray to the Lord that to help us to be sincere and to improve, and always be able to think for them, because we are so stuck, we're so hung up in always thinking about our pleasure, our convenience, and so it's obviously we know it's strong, the conditioning, but through the association of devotees and by the mercy of the devotees and the Lord, we can advance on that, and we should never give that up, but we should always try more and better in that way. And God helps those who help themselves. So if we sincerely try in that, we will slowly, it will become more natural, inbuilt for us to think for Krishna rather than to think for ourselves. And we see that in senior devotees even around here. We know it's amazing to see how devotees can, that is so natural for them to simply one after the other thing, simply think what's best for Gopinath at every moment. So but all of us should come there eventually, and so we'll endeavor for that. Okay. Any quick question? Or? Okay. I haven't come across that. Yeah, it's said his body is made of intelligence, which wouldn't seem that he would then eat gross things like we, if at all, if he eats. Yeah, I don't know if he eats or anything like that. Interesting, but because he does sleep, as you know, it's a night of true Brahma, so that's. Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, Prabhupada, I remember in one Prabhupada, I think it's in 3rd canto, where Lord Kapila describes all the different elements, including the subtle ones like intelligence, that, yeah, particularly for intelligence, actually sleeping is important. Prabhupada says that. So intelligence needs sleeping, that's it. Maybe that's why he comparatively sleeps a lot, actually, right? He sleeps full, same time like he's awake. Hmm.
So what's the share? Is there something each temples will be given the share of that particular prasadam, like that? So is that a food which is offered in the area?
Yeah, my understanding is like that. I mean, I haven't heard anything particular about it, but yeah, I think that's Agni has the potency, right, to accept the offering and share it with the others. That's why we offer into sacrificial fire, right? Okay. Kanantarachima Bhagavatam Ke. Prabhupada Ke.